Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Thank you for joining us. The topic of our discussion today is managing your accounting firm efficiently with Aero Workflow app. So I will start by introducing myself. My name is Laura Redman. I am a cloud accounting advocate. Go Cloud. I run an outsourced client accounting services firm in Northern California. We were awarded a Top 10 Pro Advisor leading QBO practice. So we are 100% QuickBooks Online and some of the other apps in the QBO ecosystem, but whatever cloud-based accounting software you want to use, all works. I am a member of the Intuit Trainer Writer Network, and I am also co-author of the QBO Advanced Certification and co-creator of Aero Workflow app, which we're talking about today. So welcome, thanks for joining me. Accounting firms are frequently plagued by a couple of things. One of them is a fear that all of the work isn't going to get done, either on time or as promised, right? So that can sort of keep you up at night if you're the principal of a firm or even a manager. And another pain point for accounting firms are these bottlenecks. Staff want to do their job right, but they're often left waiting on you maybe or another manager because they need some detail or some direction or something. They don't want to do anything wrong. They don't want to mess it up. So these two things, the fear of the work not getting done and these bottlenecks, are some of the major pain points for accounting firms. So an accounting firm needs to be managed efficiently in order to operate profitably. So what does it mean to manage efficiently? Well, let's go through a list of some of the things that would define managing an accounting firm efficiently. You want to oversee that the work is being performed so that you know the work is getting done without interrupting your staff, right? Because to interrupt them would not be very efficient. You want to avoid duplicating any efforts. You want to be able to delegate your work effectively to staff. You want to empower your staff. The better they are, the more capable they are of getting the work done, the more efficiently you're managing the firm. The firm needs some assurance that it can produce high quality work consistently so that it can go out there and confidently sell its services. The firm also has to be able to deal with interruptions, like incoming phone calls from existing or new clients, and deal with scope creep when your clients, this is a good thing. Your clients want you to do more work for them, but if you're using fixed fee pricing and they're asking for things that were not part of the initial agreement, you need to be able to manage that so that your staff aren't just performing things that you're not being paid for. Managing efficiently also involves the ability to systemize your institutional knowledge, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And you also want to be able to optimize your resources. These are your staff, mainly. Those humans that you depend on to provide your services to your clients, right? Those are just a list of things that help a firm manage itself efficiently. So let's take a look today at how those come into play when you're using Aero Workflow app. A workflow management system helps firms manage efficiently by organizing the setup, the performance, and the tracking of the work. So Aero, which you can see on screen here, is a workflow management system. It's an organized system to help staff perform their work and to help management track it all. So let me back up a step and start with the word Aero. We define an Aero as an activity, right, something you do, that tracks time associated to that work that's being performed and provides resources for completing the work properly, right, consistently and effectively. This work, these activities may come in the form of tasks, where you're just doing work maybe by yourself, or appointments, which is generally someone else is involved, like a phone call or a meeting, a staff meeting with a client. Another activity that you do a lot, I know I do a lot, is emails. And emails can really take over, and they are not necessarily on your task list. So there's sort of this other activity that we certainly perform a lot that certainly takes a lot of time, and that I often need some resources to know how to answer an email reply properly. And even notes, those thoughts that you have about something you want to follow up with, something you want to do, may or may not be related to a client. Maybe it's just related to the firm. Anyway, tasks, appointments, emails, notes, or thoughts, all of these activities are associated to work. They require resources, and you certainly want to track them to know what work you did and the time associated with it. So here on screen you can see Aero, and let's look at the way Aero helps you manage your firm efficiently. So I'm on the Manage Dashboard screen, and I'll just show you from the menu how I got here. It's on the Manage menu, and you go to Manage Dashboard to get here. The ability to oversee work that's being performed in your firm without interrupting your staff is one of the things we identified earlier that helps you manage your firm efficiently, right? So here is a visual for you about how Aero helps you do that. Here on the Manage Dashboard screen, Aero gives you a clear bird's eye view of what's going on in your firm related to the work that you do for your clients or work that you're doing for your firm. I can see the work here on this tile. I can see the different work by the various status of the work. This is all work, by the way, that's due as of today or earlier if it didn't get finished yesterday. I can see the work that I need to do by what type of Aero it is. I have 2 tasks for accounts payable that need to be done. I can see projects. I can see work by clients, which clients have work. These are showing the top 3 here. So I can click through and drill down into this and discover more detailed information about this. But starting with, here's the bird's eye view of what's going on in my firm. So let's say I want to go in and look at the work that has been put on hold, or in other words, deferred. So I'm going to click on those 5 deferred activities and drill down here into it. So here, once we drill down into it, depending on which part of the Manage Dashboard we drilled into, I drilled into the deferred arrows, so I can see those 5 tasks sitting here. They're all in the deferred status. I can see what client they're for. I can see which of my staff members it's assigned to. I can further click on any of these and reassign it if I need to, or view notes about it. So this helps me really get a clear overview of what's going on in the firm today, right? So if I go back one screen, let's say I wanted to go see which tasks are in progress. These are currently being worked on by staff, for example. So this really helps me. I can also simply, if I want to go straight to the Manage Aeros screen, I can go there directly, and this will just show me a list of all the arrows that are due today for my firm that are not yet completed. And I can use these menu options if I want to group them, we'll say, by company, for example. So in my firm, we use this on our weekly company meetings to start the week, and we go through the work we have to do this week on each of the clients, and we can ask questions or deal with things proactively that way. Sometimes services are performed entirely by one staff person, right? Sometimes you just have one person that always does this type of service, and other times you have services that are performed by multiple staff. For example, accounts payable. You may have one person who enters bills, and then maybe the client has to approve them, and maybe you have a different staff person like a controller who's in charge of paying the bills. So regardless of it being one staff or different staff on all your work, you can see all of that here. And in that case, I may want to come and group all of the open work that the firm has to do by user. Those are my team members. Those are my staff. And I can see everything Lucy needs to do or Michelle needs to do. This ability to use either the Manage Dashboard or the more detailed Manage Aeros screens allows you to have fewer status meetings, right? You don't have to keep checking in every few hours about what's the status of this? Is this done, right? You don't have to interrupt your staff. You can just look at it yourself here. And again, we use this even to structure our meetings so that we can be more proactive about the work that's coming up. Another thing we identified earlier was that duplicating efforts can be very costly. So in Aero, you have a record of what work was performed by each staff so that you have visibility of prior work that's been performed for clients. So I have that in the form of completed Aeros. I can always see either from the manage screen. Now let me point out here, you saw that we were grouping the list of Aeros. We also have the ability to sort the Aeros by any of these headers. If I click them, they'll sort by that. And then you also have the ability to filter it. If you wanted to go look for work for a particular client of yours, I can do that. So any of these grids you see throughout Aero, you can use those tools for, and this allows you to search for whatever it is you're looking for and avoid duplicating any effort that someone has already done. And that shows itself through arrows. You may want to come here and look to see whether a task has been completed or an email's been sent or someone has already had the appointment with the client, what they talked about on that meeting. And also through time, you can manage time. I'll just show you on the menu here. If you go to manage time, it's a very similar screen, but that's your time tracking that syncs to QuickBooks Online, and you can see a record of all the work, all of the time tracking notes and hours that were posted by your staff. Okay, so next I want to navigate to the work menu. We were looking at the manage menu from the standpoint of management, looking at the work that's going on. Let's go look at from this viewpoint of this person who's logged in. This is Robert who's logged in. Let's go look at Robert's list. This is Robert's My Aeros screen, right? I'll just give you a little hint, shortcut here. If you click the arrow, here I'll go somewhere else and show you that if you click this arrow logo in the top left, that's a shortcut also to get to the work My Aeros, because we all have to get back here eventually and get our work done. So Aero also avoids duplicating efforts. Remember, we were just looking at how to avoid duplicating efforts from the management standpoint, but Aero also avoids duplicating efforts within a firm by giving each staff person a clear list of the work that's assigned to them to perform. So again, here I am logged in as Robert, and we can see exactly which work is assigned to Robert. So nobody else should be doing that work because it's not on their list, it's on Robert's list. And if Robert calls in sick, we can reassign his work to someone else so that there is a clear assignment of who will do the work. Let's click one of these assignments to see a sample of Robert's work that needs to be done. So I will just click on, let's look at payroll, for example. Let's go in and look at his payroll task. As you can see, there are step-by-step instructions showing Robert how to do his work. Sometimes services are performed the same for all your clients. Other times there are particular steps that differ between clients, like payroll, for example. You might have one client where you have to go get their timesheets, make sure they're approved by the manager, and pay their hours. Or you may have another client where they're all salary, but maybe they have some 401k contribution you're supposed to make. So these steps, even if you're already a payroll guru and you know the payroll software backwards and forwards, you still have particular steps that can differ slightly between clients and sometimes differ greatly between clients, right? So even your most expert staff, it doesn't hurt to have the step-by-step instructions for how to do this particular task at hand. So the step-by-step instructions allow you to delegate, right, and therefore manage efficiently. So does anyone have staff that are all waiting on you in order to complete their work, right? And you feel like a bottleneck? Maybe they need a password, or you're the one that talked to the client, so you know how something needs to be done and they just need to get that information from you. They need some direction. Do you ever feel like it would just be faster if you just did it yourself? In a workflow management system, you can spell it out for them, and then you can give them all of the resources they need to get the work done. You can give them links to the websites to go do the work. You can give them client information. Here, I'll scroll down. Let me show you. If I click one of these links, it'll open, oh, that's a Google spreadsheet that wants me to log in. It'll open a link here. That step asked us to make sure there was or was not a holiday where you may need to pay holiday pay for this client's staff. And it gives us a link right to the Google Calendar that's going to show us holiday. So that's very helpful. That definitely makes your staff's work more efficient and therefore more effective and therefore more profitable, right? So give your staff links to things. Let me scroll down here and show you some more resources that are available in Aero when your staff are doing their work. They're checking off their steps one at a time. They also have these links down here to show company information if they need the company's address or phone number. They can look at all of the other work that you and your firm have done related to this company. They can look at contacts. Maybe they need to contact the banker for this client or the insurance agency. And then you've got your vault with all your passwords. So if they need the password to the 401k contribution site, they've got it right here at their fingertips, right? All of these resources, the step-by-step instructions, the links, all this password vault, this gives you the ability to hand off the work to staff so that you can stop being a bottleneck and let the work be performed effectively by your staff. Okay, I'm going to jump right back out. I just want to show you something. Remember, we're in payroll using IOP. This is a cloud-based app, right? It has happened that someone accidentally closes a browser or you lose internet connectivity. Don't worry about it. Every 60 seconds, Aero's taking a snapshot and memorizing the screen and the time. So I just want to show you, if you forget to, I'm going to go talk about that timer in a little bit, but if you forget to complete your task as you meant to, it's going to remember. See here, our payroll task. If your browser window closes, it's tracking that. The next time you come in here, it's going to have your 7 minutes. It's going to restore that. You can go right back where you were and keep on working. I'm going to jump into another task because I want to show you how different ones. And so let's look at one, maybe QBO reconcile, right? So you need to reconcile the books on this one. I just want to give you an example of the list of things. We all may know how to use QBO. We all may know how to reconcile books, but there are still lots of little steps to it, and it's not always that you need to teach them how to do it. It's about also reminding your staff to not miss any of these little details so that you perform the work consistently for your clients time and time again. But if you do have new staff, it certainly helps get them up to speed, right? So I'll jump in and out of several of these. Another one I want to show you is an example of paying bills. Here we have one called payingbillsandbill.com. If we jump into this task, I've got all my steps for paying bills, right? I want to point out another resource that I touched on earlier about systemizing the firm's institutional knowledge. I'm going to click on this. SOP stands for Standard Operating Procedure. This is your secret sauce. This is how you perform your services. Did you see when I clicked SOP, it opened another tab here? My task is still going, but it opened another tab here. This is how you perform your services, right? This is often overlooked, but it is critical to managing efficiently. Don't make your staff wing it every time. Spell it out for them. This is how we do things here. This is your knowledge capital by which you produce income. This is how you define the services your firm is going to provide to your clients. This is what you're selling. So you want to have this documented. Document exactly how your staff are to perform their work for each of the services you provide. Add print screens, put links on their task. This is especially useful for new staff getting up to speed, right? And for staff who are covering for their teammate who's out for the day. And for doing client work that differs greatly from others, such as, we have to often create invoices for our clients, for their companies to send to their customers. And that AR process can be very different from one client to the next. So especially when you have a custom process for one client or another, document it. And so it's right at your staff's fingertips when they're going to do the work. And if they do it a lot and they don't need it, fine. They don't have to open it. At least they've got their step-by-step, so they're not going to miss anything and they're going to perform their work consistently. Remember that all along when we accepted this task and came in and started checking off our steps, all along your timer is tracking your most precious resource. Your staff, their time is important. It's very valuable. The time tracking records sync to QuickBooks Online, which you can then use for payroll if you're using QuickBooks Online Payroll. You can use it for invoicing customers. It'll pull in the hours and the notes, the time tracking notes for exactly what work your staff did. And your staff don't have to go fill this out later. It's doing this for them while they're doing the work. This helps you as a firm look back and learn how much time it took to perform certain work so that you schedule it appropriately for future engagements. Even if you don't need to invoice customers hourly and you're doing fixed fee, even if your staff are on salary and you don't need to pay them hourly, it still is very important to a firm to know how much availability you have to schedule new work. This is integral to optimizing your resources, your staff, your service providers, right? A workflow management system that provides staff with their work assignments and the resources to get it done empowers staff. The principals of the firm, the managers of the firm can make better use of their time than micromanaging staff and hovering over staff. And staff don't like that either. Staff want to be empowered. They're more productive. They want to do their job properly. So if you just give them the clear instructions for what you expect of them, they are happier when they're given the reins to do their work autonomously, independently. This is, in fact, often cited as the #1 factor for an employee's satisfaction with their job. So Aero allows you as the firm, the manager, to back off, yet maintain control. Aero gives you assurance that your firm can produce high quality and consistent work. Aero also allows you to deal with interruptions and scope creep. For example, if a call comes in and it wasn't scheduled on your task list, you could simply pause your timer right here. I'm going to click pause. It's turned yellow. It's no longer clicking away. It has stopped, and I can go start a new appointment. I'll show you quickly how to do that. You can come up here to Quick Links, and let me give you a quick little overview of Quick Links too. Quick Links allows you to add an arrow or start an arrow. If you add it, you're adding it, you're like scheduling it for later. If you're starting it, the timer is going to start with you, right? So you could pause this task you're working on and come up to Quick Links and start a new one. If it's someone who called, I'd probably start an appointment because that involves someone else. And I could take notes right there about our call, and then I could either complete that or defer it so it goes back on my list to finish up doing something later. Anyway, I have a way to be interrupted without losing track of where I was on the work I was doing initially, right? So if I had already done the first two, when my call's finished, I come right back here to what I was doing before, and I simply restart my timer. It's going to start right where I was, and I carry on. Regarding scope creep, if a client asks you or your staff to perform something that's not on anyone's Aero list, then there's a good chance it's scope creep, right? And it needs to be addressed as such. So if your staff are in the habit of only performing what you've assigned to them officially, and you have a process for what kind of work is allowed to be added here, you're more likely to have a grasp on scope creep. And scope creep is certainly something that you need to have a plan for if you're going to do fixed fee pricing, value billing. Okay, so next, here, let's take this one. Let's say that we completed some of it and that we got interrupted. Maybe it's lunchtime and we're going to come back and finish this later. So I'm not going to save and complete. I'm going to save and defer, which means my time and my time notes here are going to be pushed to time tracking. That work is over. I can give a reason why, and then I can click defer, and this task is still going to be on my list to come back and finish later, and my time just now that I worked on has been posted. So next I want to show you on the work screen, there's also the My Schedule screen. I just want to point out that all of your tasks show on a schedule like this calendar kind of view, so that you can view availability. I can change it from agenda, I can see month view, week view, work week, whatever view you want to look at it. If it's been completed, you'll see it in black font. If it's not completed yet, you'll see it in blue. Those that have not been completed yet, I can then drag and move around, right? And here I can manage my day from a calendar view. Managers can see the view for each staff. Now here I am, Robert, logged in. We do have different security levels in Aero. So depending on the security level that you assign for your staff, Robert may or may not be able to view things on the manage screen, but managers can work on the schedules of all staff. So they can go in and do some planning in this calendar sort of view. Viewing availability like this is an important element of managing your resources efficiently, and it's critical to growth, right? you need to be, your marketing, your selling, you need to be able to then schedule the work. And so you have to know when you're available. Next, I want to take a look at several features of Aero that help you manage your firm efficiently. And those are related to streamlining work. And again, we've touched on this earlier, but again, avoiding duplication of efforts. So one way Aero does this is with recurring activities. I'm going to navigate to the Manage menu and come to Master Aeros. So if an Aero is work, like a task or an appointment that shows up on your staff's Aero list, a master Aero allows you to create recurring Aeros that show up on your staff's Aero list. You don't have to create a new task or a new appointment for every interval that you're going to do it. So if you've told your client that you're going to pay their bills weekly, you do not have to come into Aero and fill out all those steps and resources and everything for the 52 weeks in the year. If you have a task or an appointment that is scheduled at a certain interval, you use these master Aeros to define all the details. So let's look at one. Let's look at, we were on pay bills, so I'm going to go into the edit view on this. And this will let you see the master Aero has all of the details, which client this is assigned to, which staff person it's assigned to. You only have to fill out the fields with the red asterisk, but there are some other optional fields available. You can have some comments about this if you want to put some notes. And then as I scroll down, you can see here are the detail about each of those steps that your staff are going to check off as they go. You can reorder them. You can add a description about the step. This part of the step name is what is copied down into the time tracking notes as your staff check off each of these. You can add links here, just paste them in. You can reference that knowledge capital, your standard operating procedures. So once you get all the details in, all you have to do then is set the occurrence options. So you set up this thing you're going to do, this work you're going to do, this service that you're providing for your clients. You set up the details here, all the steps, and then you go to your occurrence options. And this middle section here opens up and lets you schedule this at the proper interval so that it's going to show up on this staff person, Robert. It's going to show up on Robert's task list at this interval. And I have several options here for scheduling it at different intervals. And once I insert those occurrences, I can see here each of them. Now, any changes I make to the details on this master Aero, the steps, I could delete a step, add a step, change some wording, whatever it is. When I save and close this master Aero, those changes are going to update all of these recurring Aeros for the future, as long as they're not started. All of the ones that are a work in progress or completed will not be changed. But all the ones that have not been started yet, those will be updated with your changes. So if you have some kind of adjustment to the way you're going to do things, you can come make it one time here, and it's going to be saved to all the future occurrences of this work. Now, if you want to come look at something specific or just change one, if you want to look at something about, say, some notes about some work that was completed already, or you want to just change one, you can come in here and find the one you want. You can search through all of these dates, find the one you want, and you can open and view and make a change to one particular one. Okay, so those are master Aeros. Very helpful for streamlining your work. Another way Aero streamlines your firm is at setup time. I'm going to go next to Aero Templates. Remember I told you that you can set up a master Aero, all the details about who's going to do it, what client you're doing the work for, all the steps, and then set this occurrence, right? Before you do that, before you type it all in, if there are some services you're going to perform regularly for potentially many clients, you want to set that up as an Aero template so that every time you book that service, you can avoid the duplicate effort of typing up the list of tasks and steps. Because if this is a service you're going to offer multiple times, not just once, then you can do it one time as a template. So Aero Templates, let's click and go into one. Here's the Bill.com pay bills. I'm going to click into the edit mode. To add a new one, you just come up here and add a new one. Let's go look at one that's already filled out. I'm going to click the view button for this template. So here I've got some of the details already entered here. I don't have it assigned to my staff yet because this is just a template. When I pull it in to do the work on a client, I will assign it to the proper person there. Or maybe this is a template for a service that is always done by one of your staff person. You certainly can assign that here. Company, I'm probably going to assign this to the client later when I pull this Aero template into a real Aero. But I just want to show you that here is where you can define all of the steps that happen, and then you can use this in the future. Let me go back screen. After you've defined all the steps for the service and any other details, then each time you want to schedule that service, you can quickly create an Aero from the template. Or if it's going to be a recurring service, you can create a master Aero. So you see these buttons over here? Let's say that you've defined some kind of setup type of work, maybe how to set up Bill.com. And you get a new client and you're going to use Bill.com for them. You want to come add one Aero, assign it to the staff person who's going to onboard that client, and this is going to instruct or assign for your staff to go set up Bill.com for that client, and it's a one-time event. Or maybe you've got something like this pay bills, and you've just booked a new gig with a client, you're going to do this pay bills weekly for them, and you want to add this template with these steps and all this detail as a master Aero. So the only difference between these two are, of course, you know that the master Aero is going to give you the section that will let you schedule all of the recurrence of it. Okay, the next thing I want to show you is where Aero will let you streamline work and again avoid duplicate efforts is using email templates. I can get to email templates on the Manage menu. Right under Master Aeros and Aero Templates, I have my email templates. So when I come to email templates, these are templates for common emails that your firm sends regularly. It might be a notification to your client that you've just processed payroll and that this net pay amount needs to be in their bank account by such and such a date. Or it may be notification to client that books are closed, they can go in, log into QBO and run their reports, or whatever it is. But I know one that I use a lot is sending a welcome email to a vendor and telling them how to submit their bills, when to expect e-payment, and to submit a W-9 form for us. So whatever it is, if there is a certain type of template for common emails that you and your staff are sending, set it up here as an email template because there are several places in Aero where you can send out an email. So let's start a new email together and look at an example of that. Remember we saw the quick links before? I'm going to just go down here and start an email. So when I do that, remember I told you on quick links that if you add something, this is kind of setting up some work to do later. There's no timer on these add Aeros. When you start an Aero, there's a timer involved. We're doing some work. We are recording some work right now. Okay, so we started this new email and I can type in, let's say I'm going to send a vendor a new welcome vendor email. And I can type in their email address. If I happen to have that vendor's name here in Aero, I can pull it up there and click add and it'll put it over there for me. But here's what I wanted to show you with these email templates. Of course, I can type in the subject and start typing the body of the email. But if I use a template, I'm going to use that welcome vendor and click pull from template. It fills it out for me. Then I can go through here and I can change any of the information that I want to if it's something specific. And then I can assign what company I was representing when I did that. I can fill out these other optional fields if I want to. And then I can actually send the email from here. Now when I do that, that marks my time. Those notes go in to Aero, and anybody else who's working on a task for that client, remember the activity log? I think we're on A1 printing just now. Let's say I'm another staff person or I'm me at a later date. I can go down here and find all of the Aeros. I can look for type emails and I can find that and pull it up and see the information. So that activity log is very important because you may need to look that up later. That vendor may call a year later and say, where's my 1099? And you can say, look, we requested your W-9, but we didn't receive one maybe, or whatever the case may be. You know, there's so many reasons why it's very helpful to be able to see the log of activity that you and your teammates are working on when you're working on a common client, because this can really help you collaborate. And that's a very important part of outsourced client accounting services. Okay, everyone, I hope that gave you a good overview of managing efficiently with Aero.